Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Cafe Ole. My name is Jay. Here at Cafe Ole with Nefesh B'Nefesh, we go over the everyday Hebrew you need here in Israel to succeed. Whether that's reading and paying your bills, going grocery shopping and reading nutritional labels, keeping up with the news, striking up a conversation, going on a date, interviews, whatever it may be, everyday conversation, everyday communication that you would otherwise do in your native countries and mother tongue, but here in Israel in Hebrew. As always, we want to hear from you what topics you'd like us to cover. If there are any that we have yet to do, please write to us at Nefesh B'Nefesh. You can see all of our previous lessons up on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, type in Cafe Ole. You'll see our full playlist. You'll also get a notice by email if you're joining us live here with both a link to the recording as well as a copy of this evening's vocabulary. As always, if you have any questions while I'm teaching about this specific class, please write it in the Q&A. Otherwise, any other comments, questions, concerns, critiques, whatever it may be, non sequiturs, please write that in the chat only. I'm only going to be looking at the Q&A. So with that, let's get started. This is another participant requested topic, and this is a really important one when you're using any language, let alone learning a new one. It's all the things a dictionary, a printed dictionary can't teach you, which are all the different tones that we use to say words, all the non-verbal cues, all the other ways that complete what we call communication. Excuse me, that just reading a word and how to pronounce it won't necessarily give you. So tonight we're going to go over some very popular ways of nonverbal communication in Israel that are unique to here, as well as some words that are, some that are actual words and some that are more best described as sounds. And we're also going to look at some popular memes from the past few weeks because they've been anticipating, a couple memes have gotten really popular in the last few weeks, getting ready for this specific class in Hebrew for Hebrew. So I just want to actually show you a little bit of what we're talking about here. Let me open this one up first before I show it to you. You may have seen this one charting in the last few weeks, or rather it has been, whether you knew it or not. This guy, this one is from, we've referenced this this organization quite a lot, Ha'Akademia Lashon Ha'Ivrit, the Academy for the Hebrew Language. This is the self-appointed standardizing body that's in charge of regulating Hebrew, modern Hebrew. So new words in particular, but also making clear how to pronounce certain things. Excuse me, I'm still a little under the weather and my voice is going in and out today. Apologies in advance for that. They also have a really active social media presence, and in general, they do some really great stuff in terms of education and Hebrew education for Hebrew speakers. This is one that they posted a few days ago. It's from Twitter, very, very humorous and very much apropos our lesson tonight. And it says in Hebrew, "Taknu oti im ani toeh." Let me correct me. Litaken is to fix, but in this case it means correct me. Taknu oti im ani toeh, if I'm mistaken. Litot is to mistake. A ta'ut is a mistake. So taknu oti im ani toeh, correct me if I'm wrong. Aval nira li she, this is this first sentence here, but it seems that, and then it goes into a couple verbal words, but they're not really words, they're more verbal sounds. The first one, equals achzava. Achzava is disappointment. So disappointment. Aha, or havana, understanding. Bata, horror. And haskama, agreement. Okay, so this is one of the few that's been going around. We're going to look at a few more in the course of this evening, but very much preempting what we're doing here tonight. So let me just share the start of our words tonight, or our lesson plan tonight. Just 1 second. Okay, So as you see here, we're actually starting with nonverbal cues. In going through what are the nonverbal communication tools that we use in Hebrew, a lot of them are very similar to what we know in the West, right? Up and down, nodding of your head means yes, side to side means no. A lot of other things that we do on a regular basis very much translate in Israel. There are a few that are unique to Israel, or at least to this region, that are important to master, because nonverbal communication is no less important than verbal communication. That has to do with everything from eye contact, physical proximity, touching, things like that are included in nonverbal communication. But we're going to speak to three ones that really stand out as being unique in Israel. The first one is what I would call a tongue click. This is a little, if you remember the other week when we practiced our sounds and we did the nun sound with that dented alveolar sound where we put the tip of our tongue right behind our front teeth. This is a similar thing, except we're going to make a click sound. You're going to put the tip of your tongue and the front of your tongue right in front of the back of your teeth. And you're going to quickly push it back with that breath of air. Okay. When you make that sound in Hebrew, in Israel, you're also going to usually make your mouth a much more narrower than I just did. I did that to illustrate it, right? But you're going to make your mouth even more narrow. It's going to look like this. Okay, you can think of it as the tisk tisk sound. You can think of it as calling to different, I don't know, to animals or to other people, but it's a very specific sound that you hear a lot in Israel. And it typically means be serious or something negative, answering no to something. And it's usually accompanied by a couple other things. So you won't just do, you'll also either, as it says here, with an upward head nod, right? Look at me, look at how I'm doing this as you're practicing at home. Watch my face and my head as I'm doing this first version of it. Okay, your head goes up as you do it. The other one is a furrowed brow, meaning your eyebrows go like that, and closed eyes. And the other one is, okay, all of these are negative replies. So if someone asks you, for example, do you want to go for coffee? In a very casual way, right? Balacha cafe. Do you feel like coffee? You can answer in any of those different iterations, and it'll mean no, lo, okay? And it also can mean be serious, like, no, you gotta be kidding me. In any respect of a negative reply is this, and you're gonna hear that a lot. It's one of the more pronounced ones that's unique to Israeli communication. The next one you've probably seen before. It is not unique to Israel. It's more commonly associated with southern Italy, but it's a very important one, which is this. Okay, you take your thumb and you point it together with the rest of your fingers, and usually you're doing it towards someone, so it's facing towards them, meaning your thumb is looking at you, and you usually shake. In Israel, it only means one thing. I know in other countries it means a bunch of other things. Italy, it means a whole host of things. In Israel, it simply means rega. Rega means moment. It literally means moment, but it's as in wait a moment, or just a moment, or patience, or slow down. And you can even add the previous line, the click to it, right? So you can do, I do that quite a lot. It's like, no, hold on a minute. Slow down. Not at the moment, give me a second. Okay, that's what all of that implies when you combine the two together, but this simply means, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, and then the last one is also not unique to Israel, but it's not as common in some Western countries, is the following. Watch what I do with my index finger to either eye. Usually I do it to my left eye. right? You pull down on the skin underneath your eye to show the white underneath your pupil, right? It's got an actual name. It's called the eyelid pull. And it has a great description on Wikipedia, what it means in a couple different countries, particularly in France and also in Turkey, which makes a lot of sense why it's so popular in Israel between European and Middle Eastern influences here in Israel. A dismissive or disdainful disbelief, right? You do this to someone, when someone says something to you and you reply like this, or vice versa, it means, come on, don't be, you got to be serious. I don't believe you, right? Dismissive, disdainful disbelief. A great alliteration there in English for a very Israeli thing to do. It also is related to the very old-fashioned American English expression, such and such my eye, right? That's where that expression in English comes from. When you say, you know, when you're incredulous about something and you repeat the word and you say my eye, that's what you're talking about when you do that, okay? So those three things, three great, unique, nonverbal communications that you'll find in modern Hebrew in Israel. Now let's go to some things that are not exactly words, but they're definitely verbal. Okay, first one, there's three of them that all mean whoa, as in W-H-O-A. Okay, you can either say yo, show, or why. Okay, all three of these mean whoa. Here's a sample sentence for it. And this is how you're going to hear it. You're not necessarily going to use these words again, but they're good to, excuse me, to recognize. Show, is it chomayom? You even say it like that with that specific sing-song. It's like, whoa, it's like so hot today. Okay, this is very informal Hebrew, but you're going to hear these types of emphatic sounds. Yo, show, or why. Okay, so that's just a few of what I'm talking about here in terms of verbal, nonverbal, or verbal non-word communications. An important one to add, should you want to laugh out loud, LOL, in Hebrew while you're typing, whether it's on an app or on WhatsApp or in a email or anything like that, the way we laugh in Hebrew, again, this is nonverbal, is with a series of chets. You can think of it as or cha 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 cha. Either way, it's at least 2 or 3 chets in a row. You can certainly extend it to much more. Another way we indicate some other forms of communication. Another good one, we do not say ugh in Hebrew. Instead, we say oof or if. Apologies for my voice. I would usually go much higher up on the second one. So it's either oof or if. Okay, either of them really good cathartic ways to indicate disgust, frustration, anger, whatever it may be, just like you usually write out UGH in English, oof or if, interchangeable in Hebrew. The next one is a great one. This one, just find ways to use this one, is ichs. Okay, it's not enough to do the oof or the if. Now we're going to add a guttural sound to it to make it even more emphatic, this non-word verbal communication. Ichs. Ichs really is yuck. Like yuck. That's the equivalent in Hebrew is ichs. Okay, you really want to emphasize that sound there. Another one, you probably know this one very well, and we're going to get to another iteration of what we saw before as a meme shortly. But this one is important. This one you're going to hear far more often than it used to be that Israelis were notorious for going on foreign broadcast stations and speaking in English and always being made fun of with their English because every other word out of their mouth was eh. And it's true, you will hear some more, but it really nowadays is M. okay, or M. Either way, whichever part you want to elongate, that's what takes the place of in English is M in Hebrew. So it's just a sound instead of a. Because remember, we talked about this the other week with regards to vowel sounds and what doesn't translate from one language to another. There is no in the same way there is in English. Okay, M is how we would say or M or in modern Hebrew. And finally, before I forget this one, you may know this one from more traditional Jewish circles. This is also heard by secular Israelis. Is psh, psh is impressive or wow, indicating a surprise, of positive surprise of any kind. Is psh. Right? So those are all different sounds, not exactly words. And before we get to words, I want to show you two more memes as we're doing this. Sorry, just 1 second as I pull it up. We did that one already. So here's another one from the Academy of the Hebrew Language, talking again about nonverbal communication and sounds and things that just won't make it into a dictionary, but are integral to a Hebrew speaker. Is the sound or as we just indicated instead of im. We're going to get to that in a second. So line by line, this is quite humorous, but also informative, again from the Academy. First one on the right-hand side. The right-hand side is all iterations of or and the right-hand side is the proper definition of what that sound means. Let's go through these together because it's quite cute. Kena, you've probably heard this a lot. Kena, that's how it's spelled. Ken, meaning yes. Is following it up. Kena means maskima itcha, meaning I agree with you. Baktana. Great expression. Baktana. And that translates as, according to them, as Zekol Tzipur, meaning that's the whole story. Baktana. Baktana comes from the word katan, small. It means like that's nothing, or that's like it's not anything serious. Oh, that's chump change. That's small potatoes is another way to translate baktana. Okay, all right. Next one, or in this case, as you would say it, in this case, it means lo nirali. Lo nirali, I don't think so. Or it doesn't seem like that. It seemed like it to me. Next one, this fourth one down, aha, yadati, I knew it, right? Just like in English, this one also translates, aha, I knew it. This is a cute one. V'tavi gam kama agvaniot. And bring some more tomatoes, which translates to niskalti, I remembered something. Okay. This one here. Nafalta la roche. Did you fall on your head? This penultimate one here. I don't understand what you said. Or I didn't understand what you said. Either way, it translates. Nu azeh. Nu azeh. The last one here. Lo matzliach lizacher. I don't remember. I can't succeed. I'm not succeeding in recalling, but meaning I don't remember. Okay, another really cute meme from a short time ago, further explaining why these sounds are so important in mastering Hebrew. Okay, let's get to some more words. And in this part of the lesson, we're going to go over specifically, just pull it up. When I'm talking about sounds and annotations, it's also tones. Things, again, you just can't look up in a dictionary. And these are words that change their meaning or change the context in which they're used based on how they're pronounced. And this is part of the question we got that prompted this lesson today. So the first one is the word barur or barul. The word barul means clear. It literally means clear, but usually when we use it in everyday Hebrew, it means absolutely. Barul shani yagia hayom. Of course, I'll come today. Or barul ze ma shehu utkaven. Of course, that's what he meant. Okay, but if someone replies to you, or you reply to them, barul or barur, you really stretch out that last vowel. It means duh or obviously. Okay, so those of you who either use this expression or have relatives, friends who use them, now you know what they mean. When they stretch out the word barur, means duh, obviously, barul. Of course, that's what they meant. Let's pause here again for another meme break. This is our last one, I promise, but this is just such a good one. This one has been charting in English for some time, but this also is a really important one in Hebrew, is the word yalla. Yalla, we've talked about this word many times. Yalla is Arabic. It is not Hebrew in origin, but we use it in Israel pretty much the same way you use it in Arabic-speaking countries. And as you see here, even though this is from 2019, there's a similar meme that's been going around on various social media platforms for some time. This is a great example of what I'm talking about tonight. One word that, depending on how you pronounce it, changes its meaning. Because right now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different definitions. And at these, you have 1, 2, 3, at least 4 different pronunciations of the word. I see the last 4 are opa. We're going to ignore those. This is all about yalla, this specific meme. Okay, so let's start. Yalla. Yalla. If you simply just say the word yalla, it means agree. Right? If someone says something to you and you reply yalla, it means agreed. Or yalla, bring it on. Or yalla, okay. Or you want to be okay as in dismissive. It's like yalla, as in your hand also does the sway thing, which also in Israel means like, let's move on. Yalla, like move along, right? Because yalla usually means let's go forward, onward. So that's what it means here in this dismissive okay sense, which gets to our next one, right? Hurry up, yalla. Hurry up. This is a great one. This is extending the word to its original origins, which has the word, the Arabic word for God in it. Don't worry if you're using this expression, it doesn't mean that you've changed religions or you're speaking another language. It's completely understood what it means. If you say, Ya Allah, means this is awesome. Ya Allah is the show. Oh my gosh, what an amazing show. Okay, this is awesome. Yalla. Again, okay, bring it on. The same thing means there you go. Yalla, go ahead, as we said its original definition. Yalla, your turn. Yalla, your turn. Ya Allah, I'm getting frustrated. It's both a means of expressing joy or happiness, but also frustration. Ya Allah. Okay. Yalla, again, moving, this idea of moving away from something. If you simply just say yalla, yalla, talk later. Okay, one word, depending on how you pronounce it, has multiple different meanings. It's another great example of it. Okay, end of our memes, at least for today. Let's go back to our vocab list for now. Okay, so we did yalla and all its multiple intonations. Another word that's related to yalla is the word walla. Walla is the name of one of Israel's most popular media outlets. It's also an Arabic word in origin. You can think of it as wow or huh. It actually sounds a lot like the French word voilà, and we use it in very similar ways in Hebrew. Not entirely the same, but very close. So that similarity in sounds may help you. But voila can be pronounced in a couple different ways. If someone says something to you and you reply voila, it's like huh. Or you could say voila, huh. Okay, however you say it, voila, flat, or voila, upwards, means exclamation point, huh. And if you add a question mark at the end of it, voila, means really. Okay, so one word, three different pronunciations. Voila, voila, voila. Okay, another great example. The word stam. Stam is a really important word to master how to use this word. When you can master this word, you have mastered a lot of Hebrew, because you can say a lot with the word stam, how you pronounce it especially. Stam can be best translated as just or only, not just as in righteousness. It means like just. I just wanted to speak to you. Ani stam ratziti ledaber itcha. Right, we could translate it as just or only. That's what stam means, okay? Stam chashavti shenipagesh. I was just thinking we could meet up for we could meet up today. Stam, like, oh, I was just thinking about it. Okay, you can say, you probably heard that a lot. And then the last way you do it is, again, elongate those vowels. Stam. Stam. It sounds a little whiny because it is. It's the equivalent of just kidding, or I'm playing with you, or just for jokes, right? Stam. Stam zerotzini. Just kidding. It's not so serious, right? That's when you elongate the word stam to mean a little bit more than just or only. Okay, really good word, really good expression to have under your belt. Okay. Two more, and it's going to be a short lesson again, as you hear my voice is already going, and I want to get to your questions. And also, if you have any others that you've heard along the way, this is a great time, by the way, in the Q&A to get your questions answered about any other words that you've pronounced and you've gotten feedback for, or you think you've heard it slightly different. Okay, nachon. Nachon is a good word. It means correct, or it means right. Similar words in meaning. Right, nachon. Nachon shelo yarad geshem הרבה זמן. It's true, it hasn't rained. You're correct, it hasn't rained in a while. Okay, but nachon or nachon is right, right? Like a lot of people are saying nowadays, right? The equivalent in Hebrew, nachon, and even asking it like a question is important. Nachon, okay, that means right. Just like nachon itself, flat, means correct or right. Sorry, and finally, our last word. This word came up a lot in last week's class, so I want to be sure to end with it. It's also a preview for next week's class, is the word mamash. Mamash, folks, means very. Okay, we don't use this word a whole lot in modern day Hebrew, except when we're really exaggerating something, either seriously or sarcastically. Okay, don't use this word as liberally as many of you are. I saw a lot in the comments last week of people using, what about mamash? Can I say something is mamash tov, or some other example? We don't use mamash nearly as much as you think we do, except to over-exaggerate something, okay? And that goes into its different ways to be pronounced. Okay, so mamash on its own means very. It's a synonym of me'od, okay? Except with mamash, it comes before the adjective. Ze mamash ta'im. It's really tasty. Okay, you can think of it also as, let me write that in here. If it'll let me, there we go. Really, okay? Ze mamash ta'im. This is really tasty. Okay, but if you reply or someone replies to you with mamash, and that's all they say, mamash, and they say it like that, it means yeah, right. Okay, mamash. That's why it's very important to distinguish how we use mamash. This is also not the same as many Ashkenazi Jews and Ashkenazi Hebrew uses the term. In Ashkenazi pronunciation, it's not the same in modern Hebrew folks. So if you're used to saying it with an Ashkenazi accent or in Yiddish, it's not the same as in Hebrew. Mamash can mean very or really, but mamash is like, yeah, right. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Both my voice is fading, but I also see we have a bunch of questions in the Q&A. Let me start getting to them. Anonymous asks, how provocative are some of these gestures, i.e. the first group? As everyone knows, this class is PG-13. I wouldn't teach you anything more provocative than that. None of those things are considered rude, right? Either this or this are not rude in Hebrew. It may be rude in other cultures, but in Hebrew, in Israel, they're not rude. Okay. Roz, can you include a lesson about greetings and replies? We've actually done that several times, Roz. Please go to our Cafe Ole playlist on YouTube. We've done greetings and introductions as well as small talk. I will myself double check, but I know we've talked about that multiple times. If not, thank you for that future class, because we will definitely cover that again. John, is there a Ivrit equivalent to like used as pause in the speech of young people? Yes, absolutely, John. We talked about the other week, but I'm happy always to repeat this one. This is also a very important one. This actually is from the 1960s, I want to say this one originated in one of three forms that we use it in meaning in Hebrew, but in modern day Hebrew. Sorry, let me just make it bigger for everyone. Sorry, just making this bigger. Okay, in Hebrew, the equivalent of like, as in how, every other word is like in a sentence. I need to explain the word like to you. That is the equivalent in Hebrew of ke'ilu. Ke'ilu literally means in Hebrew as if. Okay, it literally means as if. It has always meant that in biblical Hebrew, modern Hebrew, it still means as if. But ke'ilu in slang is the equivalent of like in American English. And there are people who will use every other word ke'ilu, and there's skits on Israeli TV of teenagers in class speaking to their teacher, their substitute teacher, and every other word is ke'ilu. Okay, but that is definitely the right word. Thank you for that question, John. Joshua, it's psh, shin, psh. That's how we say that expression, psh. Philip asks, how is barur different from betach? Barur means clear. Betach means of course. Okay, barur, where are we? Go back to that. Barur means, it literally means clear. Okay, levarer is to clarify. Betach comes from the same roots as lehavtiach, to promise, or bitachon, security, or lehavteach, to secure. Betach means of course. It can also be translated as absolutely, but betach means of course. You can use it very interchangeably, but just know they have different origins and meanings at their core. Okay, but you would not use betach. You can't use betach in the same way we use barur. Okay. Howard, so should use me'od in most cases, not mamash. Yes, me'od is much more popular. Think of it like in English, where we modify a lot of adjectives. Very good instead of excellent. That's the type of thing where we use me'od. Me'od is much more commonly used. Okay. Okay. Someone asked, how would you describe the difference between mamash and kolkach? Mamash, again, means very or really. Kolkach is so much, like so much so. Hu kolkach sameach, he is so happy. Okay, someone's asking the difference between the words mamash and kolkach. Kolkach means so, but in like so much so. Okay. Francine, when you want to thank someone, can you say mamash toda? I would not say that. You have to be really careful, Francine, how you pronounce mamash toda, because mamash toda with a very slight change of inflection could be super sarcastic, right? If I say mamash toda, that's okay. But if I say mamash toda, oh, mamash toda, it's sarcastic. This one's really tricky. I would stick with toda rabba. Okay, toda rabba is thank you very much. That is the acceptable way, and it's much harder to mess up toda rabba to be sarcastic. Whereas mamash toda, say it only to friends, and only when it's clear the context you're not being a smart aleck. Miri, yes. Rega can go like this, or it can go like this. She's saying that sometimes they pull their hand straight down. Absolutely. Either way means hold on a second. Okay. Anonymous asks about the word bidiuk. Bidiuk means exactly. Again, we have a lot of words just like in English. Betach, barur, bivadai means of course. Bidiuk means exactly. We're only focusing on these words because these words can also be, when pronounced differently, can have different meanings. Is it correct to use stam when you don't want to answer a question fully? So basically you are saying just because. Absolutely. Bracha, this is a great point. The word stam here, you can either say stam or you can say kacha, or stam kacha, right? Kacha means meh, it's just the way it is, right? It comes from the same word as kach that we had before, but stam is a great one. Stam, if someone says something to you like, asks you, why don't you feel like going to the movies tonight? Lama lo ba lecha lalecha lekolnoa? Stam, right? In this case, when you go up like that, stam, it means, just because, no reason. Well, meaning no reason, but it does mean just because in that context. It's a really good question, Bracha. Thank you. Okay, see a lot of people asking for requests for topics, folks. Thank you so much. However, please write these in the chat, not in the Q&A. Q&A is not saved, only the chat is in Zoom World. So if you have requests for specific classes, please write it in the chat or email at Nefesh B'Nefesh like I asked at the beginning. Thank you so much for saying that. Okay, a lot of people asking for specific questions in the Q&A. Love to see those, but again, please write it in the right place. Shirley, is bemet toda? No, it's not a great expression, Shirley. It's not often heard. Bemet toda sounds like you're pleading, like almost begging, like, no, really, please. No, really, thank you. Bemet toda, really, thank you. We don't say that often. Toda rabba is more than okay, just meaning thank you very much. Sorry, folks, I see that chat is disabled. Hold on 1 second, let me write it to you. Okay, sorry about that with the chat, folks. You should be able to write your requests in there. If you have written them in the Q&A, please take a few minutes to write that in the chat. I apologize that you weren't able to write in the chat box up till now. Let me just go through the Q&A again to make sure I didn't miss any questions about tonight. Someone asked a question about, we went through some slang a few weeks ago, and I gave the example of the song Shtei Etzbaot Mitzidon, and someone is asking about Shnei versus Shtei Etzbaot. Great question, very simple. Body parts by and large, not all, but body parts by and large are going to be feminine, especially the word etzba. Why? Because etzba, the plural of etzba is etzbaot. That ot immediately tells you it's a feminine word. Not always immediate, as we talked about the other week, but etzba is feminine, so it's shtei etzbaot. We've covered numbers in the past. Numbers are counterintuitive in Hebrew. So 2 fingers are shtei etzbaot. Shtaim is the feminine version of the number 2. Shnaim is the masculine version, right? We count in feminine. Achat, shtaim, shalosh, arba, chamesh, shesh. Those are all the feminine versions of verbs, of numbers, excuse me. Echad, shnaim, shlosha, arba'a, chamisha are masculine. Even though it sounds feminine, that's the way it works in Hebrew. It's flipped. Okay, so that's why it's shtei with a taf. Shtei etzbaot mitzidon, a classic war song from the 1980s. Thank you for asking that question. Okay. Let me just quickly go through, make sure any other questions about this specific class. Uh-huh. A lot of requests for classes. Just another reminder, folks, please write that in the chat. Is there a way to say this is so Israeli? I would have said mamash Israeli, but now I use mamash a lot. You can say mamash in this context, right? Ze mamash Israeli. Again, mamash is when you want to over-exaggerate something, not just say that something is very nice. You really want to emphasize whatever is being modified by mamash. So Joseph, in this case, yes. Ze mamash Israeli. Absolutely all right to say, which means, wow, this is so Israeli. In that respect, you can use mamash, but save mamash only for things that are really superlatives or over-exaggerated or hyperbolized, right? Not for everyday things that are very. Oleh, do we say rov todot? Not in everyday conversation, Oleh. That's much older, more formal Hebrew. You're not going to use it in everyday Hebrew. Okay. So we're going to stop here. And as I said, preview for next week is exactly what I just said about mamash and ma'od. We're going to do a deeper dive for next week. We're going to do a deeper dive into adjectives. You may have seen another meme flying around the last few days that says, instead of saying very good, say excellent. Instead of very tasty, say delicious. We're going to do the exact same thing, but in Hebrew. Regardless of what level you're at, and especially if you're at an intro level, we're going to up your adjectives. We're going to give you much more descriptive adjectives to use on an everyday basis. And particularly, we're going to look at the patterns. We talked a few weeks ago about patterns in words, and we can understand from the way a lot of our adjectives in Hebrew work, how they're constructed, what the construct of the adjective means, as well as the root of it, the shoresh of it, and how we can make more adjectives out of those. So next week, how to improve your adjectives to go well beyond simply adding the od or mamash to an adjective that you already know, and using some much more descriptive words in everyday Hebrew, and how to get to them very easily. So, toda rabah, thank you all so much, and I will see you all next week. Lehitraot.